Hi, Caleb from Brownells here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the best upgrades for a basic AR-15 that doesn't break the bank. And what it is actually just Magpul furniture. So I'm sure you've all seen it before. You go into a gun shop, you're shopping for guns online, whatever. And the cheapest AR-15 you can find is something that looks like this. It has just that standard old school like Colt government contract style handguard, grip, and stock. And it's a good deal, so you buy it. Now, you got to go through the process of upgrading it. Or you don't. Maybe you like it like this. You are definitely in the vast minority of us, I think, that prefers this furniture over others. But let's talk about some of that Magpul furniture and why it's an upgrade, and not just something you add on there because someone told you to. All right. First off, let's talk about... Actually, I'm going to set this down here. Actually, I'm going to put it in the vise, because that's where we're going to be. Alright, first off, let's talk about sights, because you can't use the gun at all if you don't have any optics. Maybe the one you bought came with a rear sight, maybe it didn't. And I know we're talking about plastic furniture uppers here, but maybe, potentially you also spent a little bit extra and got something with a free float handguard on it, but you're still running into the same issues. So whenever I'm talking about upgrades for it, I'm going to be talking about ones for this upper with the free float handguard and your standard plastic handguard upper. Alright, and then sights. So Magpul sights, these right here I have are the MBUS 3s. Alright, they make several different ones. You have your standard MBUS, which are just polymer, and they're great sights, they work well. And those are the most affordable option. Then you have these MBUS 3s here, which are a hybrid of metal and polymer, which these are actually my favorite because they're a little bit slimmer than the standard MBUS. And MBUS stands for Magpul Backup Sight, I think. So MBUS. And then you have the MBUS Pros, which are made out of all steel, and those are obviously the more expensive option. But these are great. You can buy them in a set, or you can just buy them individually, which if you have an iron front sight that you don't plan on removing, just buying it individually, you just get the rear sight, clamp it on there, and you're good to go. Of course, red dot sights are a good option as well, but you will have to spend a little bit more to get a decent one. And I'll say this, this is my opinion, don't go crazy in the comments, but good iron sights are better than a cheap red dot sight every single day, 100% of the time. That's my opinion. I would rather have these over like some like Walmart brand red dot sight. I don't know what Walmart carries nowadays, but used to be like the older, cheaper ones. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So iron sight, I'm going to go ahead and actually install this one. And as we kind of go through and talk about these upgrades, I'll go through the installation of them as well. Because they're also very easy, pretty straightforward. You don't need a gunsmith for any of this. You can do it in your kitchen. So all you need for this is a screwdriver. Because there is a slot right there, you can either use a hex or a flathead. Either one will work just fine, as you can see. And I prefer the hex. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this bolt all the way out. The nut is actually contained in the plastic on the opposite end. And all you're going to do is pull back your charging handle, lock your bolt back, and slide it on from the rear. And some people like to go to that second slot right there. I like to go back as far as possible. Either one's fine, you can do either, but the longer the sight radius, potentially the easier it is to line those sights up. You can be a little bit more accurate with it. So I like to get as much sight radius out of it as I can. And then you tighten that down, and that's it, it's installed. And as you can see, even all the way back, it does obstruct the charging handle slightly. I say obstruct, I mean you can feel it there when you're operating the charging handle, but it doesn't get in the way at all. So I don't really worry about that being an issue. And then to deploy them, you just push the front, and they pop up, and they're ready to go. And if you do have a red dot sight, you can use this as a backup sight, and just lay it down flat, have your red dot, your scope, LPVO, whatever optic you want on top of it. So this is one of those upgrades you can get and then keep on the gun as you upgrade to other optics. It doesn't have to go away, so you don't have to remove it, so it's never technically like a waste of money, if you will. And now let's move on to the stock, because the stock is one that kind of always drives people crazy, and that's usually the first thing most people upgrade. So this, like I said, is your standard mil-spec stock. And it's okay. It does what it's supposed to do. It provides, you know, a good surface for the gun, but this one is not as durable as the Magpul one, and it's not as solid. Also, the Magpul does provide a rubber butt pad and more sling attachment points. So this one's great, and this is just the standard MOE stock. They have different grades of this stock that add more features as you go up in different models. So there's a bunch of them to choose from. I just chose this one because it's the most affordable and just a really good starter option. So to remove your standard stock, all you're going to do, pull straight down on the lever. So the lever to adjust it activates from the back here. If you just reach up, grab the front, pull it straight down, you can slide it all the way off your receiver extension or buffer tube, whatever you want to call it. And you can throw that straight into the trash can, or you can keep it, you know, whatever. So the new stock goes on. Just slide it on until it stops. You see the bars on the side? These bars are on each side. You're just going to reach up, grab those, pull down, and it'll slide right on. And then when you use the actual lever, it'll move in and out. And as you notice, this one does fit on there a little bit more solid. There is a little bit of play in it. That's completely normal. Pretty much all stocks are going to do that unless you get one of like the more expensive Magpul stocks. They do make some that have tension pieces inside to prevent that. And then the next grade up from this one, it actually has a latch on it right here. So when you adjust it in and out, you hit the latch and it locks it in place. Like I said, there's a bunch of different stocks to choose from. If I included every Magpul stock in this video would be forever long, and we don't want that. So this is the MOE stock, and let's move on to the MOE Handguard. And I'm going to give you a few tips here because there's some different options, and not everyone will fit on your firearm. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this around. Alright, so this is our standard like mil-spec two-piece handguard, if you will. And this is the Magpul MOE handguard. And it is also two-piece. It installs just the same way this one comes off. And there are 3 different lengths of it. You have carbine, mid-length, and rifle length. And what that means is, like this is a carbine right here. This is the shortest. The mid-length is actually going to be a little longer. So on a mid-length firearm, or mid-length gas system, this gas block would actually be a little further up. So you can't put a carbine handguard in that. You have to use mid-length. And the easiest way to tell which one you have, like if you don't know, you're online ordering it, you have no idea, just grab a tape measure. Measure from the back of your front sight to the front of your receiver, which is the end of your rail right here, okay? And this one's roughly 7.5 inches, so we know this is carbine. If it was mid-length, it'd be roughly 9 inches, and if it was rifle length, it'd be roughly 12 inches. That's the easiest way to measure to know what you need. Alright, so knowing that this is carbine, we have a carbine replacement, let's put it on. Alright, so you're going to have to grab this D-ring right here. You're going to pull it back as hard as you can, and then it will just lift out. There are tools to help you do this as well if you have like weaker hands, but we're just going to use our hands here today. Alright, pull back again, and then pull out the bottom. So don't try to pull out the front, you have to pull from the back. Again, those, for me, go straight into the trash can. You do what you want with them. Alright, and then replacing with the Magpul one. So you do have to put the top on first. And you're just gonna, you notice there's some tabs cut in here. Those are gonna slip inside this front ring. So you're just gonna line those up, slip them in, pull back, and push down. And you can give it a little bump there, and that's in nice and solid. Same thing for the front. If you notice, it has a little bit of a lip on it. That lip is gonna go towards the front. It is directional. So you're gonna slide the front in. And notice these do also have that metal heat shield in them. and that's just to protect you when the barrel gets hot, keep it from getting too hot there. It acts as a heat sink. And then pull back and clamp together. Alright, now it's installed. Installing the handguard is that easy. And you may say, okay, why do I want this handguard? First of all, it is more ergonomic. It's just better to hold on to, more comfortable. And it has M-LOK slots on it, so you can mount accessories. I wouldn't mount lasers to this because drop-in handguards are inherently not good for keeping accuracy for things that need to be zeroed. But you can put things like lights and vertical grips on them. And we'll actually have an example of a vertical grip you can put on here. Okay, so the last thing is the installation for this one is a little bit more in-depth, but that's going to be the actual grip. So if you're like me, you absolutely hate this grip. And this is called an A2 style grip. The angle of it is pretty extreme, swept to the back, and it has this finger groove right here. And it's just not, I mean, it's usable, but there's better options out there, okay? So this is the Magpul MOE grip, and just like their stocks and handguards, they make a bajillion different variants of it. This is the most basic one, and it is just a good standard upgrade. If you notice, the angle is not as severe on it, so especially for carbines, like this angle's okay for the longer rifle stocks, but on a carbine, it puts your wrist at an angle, and you just end up with more fatigue while shooting, which nobody wants. So this one's great for that angle. It also gets rid of that finger groove, which I think is great for my hands. It doesn't line up right where it needs to be, so it's aggravating. And then it adds a beaver tail on the back here. So whenever you're holding it, you have more contact surface on the actual grip, which leads to a more stable grip. So let's go ahead and swap that out. So what you're going to need to do is just look inside the bottom of your grip and see what kind of screw you have in there. Some of them have flat head, some of them have Phillips head. This one has a hex head in it. So I'm just going to guess which size I need and then get that unscrewed. I'm also going to switch to my longer screwdriver so I can get down in there a little easier. This is the Brownells Magnatip screwdriver and set, the best on the planet. Alright, we're just going to get in there. We're not going to use that one because that's the wrong size. We're going to grab the right size and unscrew it. So be careful when you do this, and I'll show you why in just a second. But just unscrew that screw all the way. Alright. And if you notice, in mine, there's a spring stuck in there. We're going to need that spring. So your spring may not be stuck in your grip. It may have just kind of fallen out whenever you take the grip off. So I'm going to take that spring out and set it aside. I'm going to take the grip and also set it aside. And this spring goes up against a detent that's right there. I don't know if you can see it here, but that detent's right there inside the receiver. And that's pushing up against your selector lever, or your safety, right? So this spring and detent is what makes your safety stay in place and gives it that positive tactile click whenever you switch it around. So that is, in fact, necessary, so we'll need to retain that. Alright, so what I'll do now, your Magpul grip comes with a base plate that is removable, so you can store all types of things in there. All legal things. Don't do anything illegal. Don't put, I know, like the devil's lettuce, don't put that in there. This is for like Skittles and M&Ms. You can put spare parts in there if you want, maybe some gun oil, I don't know. But it's great for that stuff. Or you don't have to put anything in there if you don't want to. Okay, so now we'll take the new screw, kind of get that ready. Of course, it's a different size. Or no, it might be the same size I just picked up. Nope, it is a different size. Okay. Using that longer screwdriver handle. And what I like to do is actually just get the screw started in there like that. And, oh, also, this spring, I'm going to give you a little tip here. If you have a little bit of grease, dip this spring into that grease before you put it into the hole in the grip, so that whenever you're manipulating this thing, it doesn't fall out. So that grease is just used as an adhesive, basically. So now I can do what I need to do without my cat eating it as soon as it hits the floor. Okay. Now we're just gonna install the grip. I like to push it down all the way as far as I can. They do go on a little tighter, or should go on a little tighter than the A2 one. But just push it on all the way, and then carefully install the screw. If you feel like you're cross-threading the screw, stop and start over. Do not force it. Alright, and then we just torque that down a good bit. Put your cover back on. And the grip is now installed. Now, what I would do right here is just make sure your safety selector's working. That means your spring and detent are in the right place. If you can't get your gun off of safe, make sure it is cocked, right? Because on the AR-15, you can't put it on safe whenever the hammer is forward. Okay, so now that we have that installed, we have the best like base upgrades. Now I did mention there's some more stuff you can put on there. By more stuff, I mean just like the vertical grip. So this just provides a better gripping surface here, if you will. And I'll actually show you how I like to set them up, because you'll see people put them at the very back, you'll see them put them at the very front. And then you can also use it on your free float handguard. If it's an M-LOK handguard, you can just mount it right in there. So this will work on either or. And of course, if I were using this one, I would have also used that Magpul front sight. And on another note, they are directional. I know people like to mount them backwards. I think it's goofy looking. Don't do that. Mount them so that the deployment point is on the front and not the back, if that makes sense, right? So the Magpul sights are designed to flip forward, okay? So that's another note I didn't mention earlier, but we'll just leave that there for now. Okay, so there's a really good video that we did on how to install M-LOK accessories. It tells you how to set them up. So I'm going to go through this relatively quick. If you're struggling with M-LOK, go and watch that video. It's in the same place you found this video. We got that one everywhere. Okay. What I like to do, if you notice the actual like M-LOK nut and screw are pretty loose in there, the best way to do this is to determine what size you need. It is going to be a hex wrench, and it's probably going to be a size I used earlier. Okay, well I know what size it isn't, so we're getting closer. And like, so another note here, different companies use different size drivers, so it kind of drives me crazy sometimes. All right, so I got this one here. What I like to do is tighten it down as far as I can. Now Magpul does put some thread locking compound on there, which makes it really hard to do by hand, so we can use a tool like pliers. And here I have just a set of smooth parallel pliers. I'm just going to grab the top of this nut here and tighten it down until it bottoms out, and then I'm going to back off slightly so that it can still spin. And your screw should be sticking out and look just like that one right there. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other one. Grab it and tighten it down. And then back off slightly. Okay, great. Now the reason why I did that is that if I don't do that and I just put it into the slot and turn it, the nut end is going to be extended too far and it's just going to free spin inside the handguard, not actually tighten down. If you do it like this, you save yourself a lot of headache. So, I like to mount mine kind of right around that range right there, and I'll show you why once I get it installed. Same thing for the M-LOK version. I like to mount it, the free float version, I like to mount it in roughly the same spot. You may be a little bit different on where you like to mount it depending on your arm length, right? So mount it where it's comfortable for you. Don't let somebody tell you you have to mount it in a certain spot. You gotta do what works for you. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is not tighten down because it's not all the way through the slot yet. I'm actually gonna back off roughly 2 turns and then tighten it. And that wasn't enough, so I'm gonna back off a little bit more. Like I said, this process right here is explained in detail in the how to mount M-LOK accessories video. So go check that one out. All right, the first one's locked in, and I'm gonna loosen it until I feel it spinning, then tighten it down, and there it is. All right, so the reason I like to mount it right here is because I don't hold it like this, right? I like to get up there and grab some gun, and I actually use it to pull in with. So if you like this one, like I know people that even like cut these because they just don't use the full one. So if you're like me, you like to get up in there, grab it like this, because you have more control over the firearm. And if you're transitioning to different targets and you're trying to do it quickly, a grip like this will be more natural because your hand is pointing at the target rather than something like this where you're trying to swing and your hand is always under the target and it's not really pointing at the target. So that's how I go about it, and that's why I mount it right there. Okay, other upgrades that we'll mention but aren't in this video, next up would be a sling. Again, Magpul makes a bunch of slings. You can get on there, choose which one works for you. You can use your front sling attachment here. If you want to use quick detach, they make M-LOK mounts that mount right in, and it provides a quick detach. So that's all there is to it. Those are the best upgrades for a basic AR-15 from Magpul. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to add, feel free to post them down below. As always, if you need help with anything for any reason ever, feel free to give us a call on the tech line. We'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.